Greetings, everyone. This is the Hipster Snack and another episode of the Tomodachi Bros Review Podcast, Season 3, Season 2 coming soon, trademark. Today, joining me is Clockwork Fiction.
Surviving on synthetic, cold meds, and broken dreams.
Awesome. And also, Master Dutaku is also here.
Broken dreams. Oh, you poor sweet summer child.
Y'all still have dreams?
You have broken dreams. I was forged by disappointment.
I know the feelings of disappointment. I too am a fan of Monster Rancher. So today we are getting into our gripes, our complaints, our whinging, and our whining. But before we do, I'm going to open the floor for any current nerd news. Usually I go in alphabetical order, so today we're going to do backwards. And Dutaku, you control the floor.
Oh, well, I actually saw something. It's not exactly like bleeding edge, hot off the presses, this is going to sell like hotcake. Type of news. But I think it's still huge, and I think it's still newsworthy.
Right.
Apparently, there has been a back and forth Cold War over the new Snow White that Disney was supposed to release.
I saw something about that.
It has gotten silly, but let me explain. So Disney was going to release Snow White at the end of the year. But then Daily Wire, who has been trying to release, new actual like popular fiction and other content just for entertainment,
right,
announced that they were going to do an actual too faithful to the Grimm's fairy tales Snow White adaptation themselves, basically throwing the gauntlet down. Also, with the understanding that their version is going to be way cheaper. And so it will be way easier to not only recoup their losses, but also actually make money. And Disney, in reaction to this, basically went, our version isn't going to be coming out until 2025. By the way, all of the dwarves are actually going to be like magical fairy tale creatures again, not just like, the Planeteers.
The guys who just happened to wander onto set that day.
Yeah. It's not like the seven randos that are just hanging out with them. Like they actually showed
a fake Grand Order.
Quote unquote. Yeah. Well, see, the funny thing is that the seven outlaws and that are actually they're actually closer to the Grimm's fairy tales, especially considering that they flat out explain that they're like, yeah, we're not actually dwarves, but none of these fairy tales are going the way that they're supposed to. So,
right. That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, we're literally fighting Cinderella right now. So, but so they actually kind of look like dwarves now. Although still, they have not actually hired any actual little people actors. I don't even know what the quote unquote politically correct term for that is.
I believe that
short guys, short guys.
They're short kings.
So basically, the pocket princes. They haven't gotten any. For that. But anyways, so there's just apparently that's where things are. Is that Daily Wire is not only going to release theirs. It's going to release it first, and also this is basically all but implying that Disney is going to lose even more money because they are announcing, not only do we have to basically make an entirely new film in order to compete with this effective indie company that's dunking on us, but it's basically they're are just kind of also acknowledging that the Daily Wire is going to do better than them. And if you actually see their Snow White actress, honestly, I would say that, I think she's way hotter than Rachel Zegler is.
I have not seen it, but now that you have said that, I will have to investigate this.
I mean, yeah. See, the funny thing is like they have Gal Gadot being the evil queen in the Disney version, and so it's like Rachel Zegler versus Gal Gadot. Like, why would
Yeah.
dark queen Gal Gadot be like, oh, she's pretty? It's like, no, she'd be like, oh, ugh. I don't want to be around you.
Not to mention the original line in the fairy tale was, "Who's the fairest?" Fair does not mean beautiful. Fair means pale.
Yes, but they don't understand that because words meaning things is difficult.
Yeah, no, that's true facts. And you know what this kind of reminds me of? Wasn't it like just a year or two ago where there was like 3 Pinocchio movies all released in the same year?
I don't honestly know. I recall there was supposed to be a few, but honestly,
like Del Toro had one, Disney had one, and there was something else, I think.
None of them made any impact because, like, all I heard was like these are coming out, and then no one made a big.
I'm gonna be perfectly real. I haven't watched a modern movie in quite some time. I'm in that current sense, just because I just have no absolute interest in almost anything coming out nowadays.
Yeah, like I only go to the theater. Like that's why the Netflix are so slow. It's like the last couple I did were like I did Five Nights at Freddy's was the most recent one. Then I did like Dungeons and Dragons, Super Mario, and Sonic 2. Like Sonic 2's been out for a while.
Okay, so you know what? Here, I'm going to do the Taku flicks for Doom.
Okay.
The 2021 Doom.
All right.
Don't watch it. It's not good. don't watch it.
I mean, the animation / anime scene has been popping off more and more. At least the two that I've been interested in recently, looking at is there's apparently an Onimusha anime that was released recently.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
One called an animation called Blue-Eyed Samurai that's on Netflix. Now look at both of those. I'm like, those look pretty cool. Both of them do. And then not to talk about the last podcast where I talked about Captain Laserhawk and Castlevania. It's been just a lot of different stuff coming out recently. Also, apparently, I don't know names, unfortunately. There's an anime that was released recently that's supposed to be really good called Pluto, which is a spinoff / a prequel to Astro Boy on Netflix as well.
Huh.
It's the manga has been out for forever. It's basically a manga artist who I want to say was the one behind Planet Haze, which is a really cool science fiction series. Basically taking a very famous arc from Astro Boy and effectively like doing the dark and gritty version of it. I've been told it's good, but at the same time, no, I'm thinking about it from, back in like 2007 when someone was like, oh yeah, Pluto is super awesome. And I'm like, wow, that's really good art. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So,
but yeah, that's my thing. So
all right.
That's what I got.
Mr. Clockwork, what do you bring to the table this fair evening?
BlizzCon happened or is happening. Just a couple quick things to go through. Overwatch has a new tank coming out, which looks pretty cool. If anyone still plays that,
it looks like the dude from Maona.
That's what I thought too at the beginning. But I mean, that's kind of their art style they're going with, so it's kind of hard to get away from it. But I don't really play much Overwatch. If I did, it's just usually the casual, which usually you don't see a lot of people playing anymore.
I gave up years ago.
Chris Metzen, it was in the news a while ago. I don't know if I covered it, but Chris Metzen came back to the team, which was very interesting because I could have sworn he was on another team when the old CEO had left and started their own development of another MMO. So I'm assuming that has tanked.
The team? What team? The Overwatch team?
No, Chris Metzen.
I don't know who that is.
The Warcraft team. He's the writer for World of Warcraft or Warcraft in general. Sorry.
Yes, you got to specify these things, my man.
Okay, sorry. This is the problem in Clockwork is that you're like when we're like yes we talk about Leo Tolstoy or talk about George Hemingway or Ernest Hemingway, George Orwell, and you're like who, but you're like, oh yes, the technical advisor of the Wizard.
Yeah. You got to give us a little more context, is what we're saying.
So the writer, the writer for Warcraft, Chris Metzen, came back.
Okay.
And they released the announcement for 3 new expansions for World of Warcraft in a arc they're calling, and I totally forgot the name of it, but it's a whole saga a la Final Fantasy 14. So they're kind of as Final Fantasy 14 has borrowed from World of Warcraft, they seem to be doing the same thing. They are borrowing from Final Fantasy 14.
Okay, I do have to ask. My full experience with WoW has been the trial edition, and the thing that I noticed in my time playing was the story just kind of seemed to happen without me. Like, is that the normal experience? Like, is there a start and finish point to a one contiguous story in WoW at all?
So to break it down, so this segment's not 2 hours long. The beginning, the how they made it, the 1 to 60 is you getting up to speed to the next expansion, pretty much. Once you get to kind of choose a story to kind of enter into up
so there's
to that
like
point.
a whole bunch of choose your own adventure stories, and you just go down them when you're ready to go down them.
At least that's how I did it recently.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's the same thing now because I've been out of it for quite a while.
All right, I wasn't interested in opening Pandora's backyard shady shed, but at the same time, I had to ask.
The main reason is because they cut down the leveling, because we would have been at like level 160 now or something like that, something crazy. Yeah, but they cut it down back to 60 to make leveling a lot easier.
All right, fair enough.
And I think there was some Diablo news. To be perfectly honest, I think it was just had to do with some of their expansions, and none of them have been good. So I didn't really pay attention to that, to be honest. Sorry, Diablo fans. I tried to like it at least 4 different times, and I just can't get into this one. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. It just does not feel good.
Sometimes that's it, though. Sometimes it's just not. It's just not for you. Sometimes that happens, and that's okay. That's what happened with me in Monster Rancher 3. There are a lot of fans in the fandom who are just like, oh no, I loved Monster Rancher 3. And I'm like, cool, you saw something there that I couldn't. I don't like Monster Rancher 3.
And then the big news that now, I think my mic just, there we go. One of the big news that happened recently is that...
You sound like you're a million miles away, my dude.
He sounds like he's in a box. We put Clockwork in a box. He's now box
did
work.
Me in a box. I don't know why you guys would do that.
I accidentally did open Pandora's shady backyard shed, and Clockwork fell in.
No.
How about now? Do I still sound far away?
No, you sound good now.
Okay. I accidentally hit my mic. Bobby Kotick, unless something changes, he is the CEO of Activision Blizzard. And a lot of people believe is one of the reasons why Blizzard has fallen down this very, very bad hole as of late, is going to be leaving in January on a golden parachute.
Of course.
Nonetheless. We don't know. I don't know unless something changes. We're not sure who's going to take his place. This is more of just news. I don't have one thing of another by it because we don't know who is going to be taking over. It could be someone even worse. It could be someone even better. We don't know. That's the scary part.
It'll be one of Billy Gates's Thai lady boys or something.
It's going to be it's going to be somebody who's going to turn World of Warcraft into a big gotcha game or something.
That's a really stupid oblique Family Guy reference. I'm not sorry.
You know who it is. It's going to be Snack. It's going to be Professor Snack, and he's going to make it into a monster raising simulator.
Guys, okay, you see what you're doing with this hunter class? I like it. Let's expand on that and make it the whole game. What? You know Monster Farm Lagoon? That, but better and less Korean.
What is Monster Farm?
Don't worry about it. It's fine. I have all the details in this 9,682-page document that I have written up for you.
But does it have pauldrons, though? Because, we can't do anything without pauldrons.
Technically, golems kind of have pauldrons with the huge, giant robo shoulders, so yes?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. We can work with it.
Yes, that's the big reveal is I'm going to become the new CEO of Activision Blizzard. Yes, that's the big twist.
And then also...
Vikings 5.
And then that's pretty much all for the news. Also, RoboCop Rogue City looks pretty cool. I wanted to check that out. It's on Steam now.
Be sure to give us a thorough review of that, Clockwork Sun.
Let's also before it runs out, if any of you are interested, what would happen if Final Fantasy mixed with Fall Guys? You don't have to imagine anymore because there is a collaboration happening in the Gold Saucer right now for that particular game.
By the time this episode goes live, it will possibly be 2024. So
awesome!
Yeah, that event's probably going to be long gone by the time they hear this.
Nope, it will be back intermittently.
Okay,
on an uneven schedule, so it might be back. You never know.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Well, see, the funny thing is I went in there just because I enjoy. I'm like, oh, I like the Gold Saucer. I'll do this, and then I'm like, oh, literally, it's just you doing Fall Guy mini games, and I'm not literally 12, so I am not going to do this.
I also play Mahjong, but that's just me.
No, you need to get Rise, and hey, maybe your new super turbocharged PC can actually record footage from that, because my potato sure can't. That'd be a good idea, because I know COG has World at least. I know all four of us have World, so that's a team. And if you got Rise, I bet we could talk COG into getting it. And I'm not super far into Rise, so maybe you guys will get to see that. Leave a comment down below. Should we do Monster Hunter Let's Play? Let us know. So, is that all the nerd news?
Yeah, for me, yes.
That's all I got.
I don't really have anything particularly interesting, so we're going to get into today's topic. And we've been very positive, I think. I think all throughout Season 3, we have maintained an aura of positivity. And, I mean, even when we were critiquing very, very harshly, which I think we kind of did in the Realist Hero story episode, I think generally it's been very positive. It's been very constructive. Today, we are going to get a little, what's a good word for this? We're going to get a little bit salty.
Okay, to be perfectly honest and to give some, plausible deniability for the professor and to box work, basically this all stemmed from the fact that I just started to, I had a bad experience, say, with Destiny 2, and that got me a little bit salty, shall we say. And so I'm like, I'm going to write down my list of things that are wrong with the gaming industry at this point. And so I came up with a list, and I brought it to the other Tomo Bros. I'm like, hey, am I missing anything? Do you guys think of anything? And they're like, well, we can talk about this next time. I'm like, well, okay. All right. So here we are. So this all stemmed from me not being happy with Destiny 2.
Yes, our podcast topics are all just tangents we randomly go on each other.
Pretty much. I mean, if you really want to know about, if you want to know how the sausage is made here at the Tomo Bros factory,
just utter chaos and nonsense. Let's be real.
We have lots of electrical cables and lots of treadmills and lots of potatoes.
All right. I guess I will begin. One of my biggest gripes I have right now, currently, especially with certain games that I've been waiting for, announcements before the game is even real. When the game is announced and they're talking about, we're going to be making this game starting 2025, and I'm like, you haven't even started it yet. So it's 10 years in the future. Why? Yep. Why? And it's like, well, it's got to build up hype. It's got to build this. It's got to build. I'm like, no, that's not how that works.
That's true to a certain limited.
Hype goes away after a while. If you build up so much hype and the game is a mid at best,
you get Duke Nukem forever.
Then the game Then the game is going to be the game is going to be considered terrible because it's been sitting for 12 years in the oven, and this is all you got.
That's actually a really interesting point. The other day, I came across this little nerdcore band called the Chalk Eaters, and I'm saying a little bit superfluously because they're not. They're actually a pretty big YouTube channel, and they're fairly popular, and their stuff's pretty good. I like most of it. And they did one talking about Half-Life 3. And I was just really, really tickled by it because it's like they seem to be blaming everything except the reality of the situation on why it's not going to happen. And I'm like, you guys know that Valve literally has every incentive in the world to never release it and zero incentive to ever release it. Like, the first off, the meme draws attention. The meme is free advertising. The more Half-Life 3 confirmed memes go around, the more free advertising the existing Half-Life franchise gets. And second, it's too late. The main villain of Half-Life 2, his voice actor was a man named Robert Culp, who died like 7 or 8 years ago. The main villain's gone, and it's too late. You could release an amazing game, but they're not going to view it as, oh, this game had a 3-year dev cycle. They're going to view it as it's had a dev cycle since Half-Life 2 Episode 2 ended. And that's how it's going to be judged. Therefore, they have no incentive whatsoever to ever release the game, and every incentive to never release it. It's dead. Let it go, guys.
Honestly,
it's been confirmed. It's been confirmed a while ago that the game is when the notes for the story had come out. Like, I believe if you do a Google search, you can find the storyboard stuff for Half-Life 3. The storyboard, I was like, yeah, this game is dead in the water. There's too much hype around it. We can't come up with a good enough, everything to get this game to become something that we want. So Valve we're just going to throw this out here, and
Valve's QA team are perfectionists. They're never going to be able to release anything. It's too late. The window for that time period has imploded in on itself. We're past the event horizon. It's gone.
This is me reaching, because I could have swore I heard this somewhere, but I don't have a source on it, unfortunately. Is that Half-Life and Half-Life 2 were more like, we're also at a show of the engine itself that it runs on, like the Steam works and the framework and everything like that. And that's one of the reasons why Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines came out in such a state, is because they wanted a game running on the engine that they could push out, but the team didn't have enough time to make an actual game out of it. So they ended up needing a fan mod just to be able to beat it.
That is not at all what happened.
So that timetable does not add up at all.
Okay, all right. You have to understand. Yeah, yes. I mean, it was made with the source engine, or whatever engine Half-Life 2 uses, which is why the facial animations are really good.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, it was also made by Troika, which were known for like having huge ideas, but not being able to quite fulfill them. And secondly, it was literally Troika's last game, and basically the company imploded on themselves.
And they
right
knew
after it was. Yeah. So the fact that it literally was unplayable to complete was partially because it was, first off, Troika, and secondly, it was literally made while they were basically just collapsing on themselves like a neutron star.
It was the last days of Pompeii in the Troika offices, and they were trying to make the best of what they could. And for what it is, it's an amazing game that needed some modding to fix. But that being said,
also kind of. It also would kind of make sense as well, the timetable, because if they release it when the Steam works is hot, then that means the game would sell more too, since everyone would want a game that has the physics and everything of what is showing off.
The engine continues to be quite popular. Like, the facial animation is really detailed, like Taku said. The physics engine is not perfect, but it's quirky enough to be entertaining. And stuff like that. It makes perfect sense. And licensing an engine can make you a whole lot more money than building games can. And that's the lesson that Valve learned from Half-Life and Half-Life 2. Now, if you want an interesting little bit of history, the physics-based gameplay for Half-Life was inspired by one of my favorite objectively terrible games, Jurassic Park Trespasser. It is a bad game, a broken game, but they looked at some of the physics work in the game and were like, "Hey, we can do something like that." And a lot of that blood poured into Half-Life.
And now you've learned that one.
Yep.
this is the problem there, Twerk. You have to understand, if you are going to go completely into games, game history, game design, dare I say, game theory, you need to know this stuff.
Everything
You can't just
bleeds
feel
over into itself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gaming is a huge. This is my complaint. Let me lay it on the line. The gaming quote unquote community, which I hesitate to call it that because it's talk about disjointed, disorganized, and left hand not talking to the right. Wow, yeah. Gaming today, especially in the generation younger than ours, doesn't seem to have an appreciation for the way that games on the whole have always kind of been a melting pot of ideas, very heavily cribbed from other media. A lot of the horror games, for instance, come from the works of Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, and just a lot of these classic Gothic era writers, and a lot of these horror novels were incorporated to make these games. Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which is one of my favorite horror games, cribs heavily from Lovecraft. Another one was a really good one on the GameCube was Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem. Very, very Lovecraft inspired. They kind of do their own thing with the way the gods work, but like very Lovecraft.
That was the one where you have to go back in time to stop Cthulhu.
Yes. Well, kind of. You flashed back to people, like the events that already happened, basically, kind of, sort of. But yeah, no, there was like there was 4 Cthulhus, and they're in a constant war with each other, and depending on which Cthulhu you hated the least, would quote unquote win until you got the final ending where you could kill all of them. Yeah. Gaming, like your boy Elric there, Ditaku, was heavily plagiarized for the Witcher series.
I mean, yeah. And honestly, even Elric was plagiarized heavily from Saxton Blake and was literally made as an inverse of Conan. The entire thing of this evil wizard being, and let make no mistake, Elric is an evil wizard. Even if he is fighting eviler wizards.
Yeah.
He is basically this like creepy albino who goes around doing creepy evil wizard things.
Yeah.
And he was specifically made basically as a inverse of, the me Conan, me strong, me cool, me good looking. And so, I mean, that was the intent.
Yeah. And a lot of this DNA is largely unknown to the modern crowds. And I'm like, almost every game that you guys love, and almost every game that I love, has its forerunner in some kind of fiction that came before it. And you can go all the way back to like the Epic of Gilgamesh in this regard, because like all these things, there is nothing new under the sun, guys. You're never going to find ideas that are 100% brand new and original. They're all coming from somewhere. Now, that's not a bad thing. Like an okay idea executed well is always going to be more interesting than a gimmick that's executed poorly. So bear that in mind.
That being said, this segues really nicely into something that's kind of my bugaboo.
Sure.
Is that being said, though, OMG, oh my gosh, my girlies, but the gaming industry needs to stop going to the quote-unquote dark fantasy / dark fairy tale well, because it's not good. It's not interesting. It's not unique. All I see are just like, in a world where darkness dwells and everyone is really, really pretty and looking, and they all have giant pauldrons, and also we have swords and stuff, and we fight bad guys, but we're also bad guys. And here's the Mad Hatter, and he's crazy looking, and he's got like giant scissors. And there's the March Hare, and he's crazy. And the Red Queen, and she's crazy too. It's like, oh my goodness. This is very trite, very boring.
Yeah.
And yet, every single developer is like, oh my goodness, guys, no one's ever done this before. It's like, no.
If you're going, here's the thing. I think that kind of thing can work. But the problem is they tend to fall back on a lot of the same ideas. They're rehashing stuff that other devs have done before, hoping to copy their success, and basically not really changing things or really trying to be in any way, not even novel. Like they're not even trying to do any. They are pushing no envelopes. They're doing nothing that requires any effort. They're mimicking, they're parroting things that came before them, and that's the disappointing thing.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, as much as I'm sure that Boxwork is going to, to clap back on this. I mean, Blizzard, to a large extent, is responsible for this with the promulgation of the Warcraft. Like, oh, we're just going to take from all of fantasy, except that we're all going to just put it into this blender and make it awful. And so they and the sad part is like you look at earlier Warcraft, and yeah, it's very much like derivative, but there was a humor. It didn't take itself terribly seriously, and it had its own voice. But look at me and tell me with a straight face, yes, WoW, has its own unique voice, because it doesn't. It is.
I mean, maybe at one point it did, but like that's the thing. You're having this problem where you're replacing writers with new incoming writers who continue to pander to the biggest possible audiences they can. Shout out to the South Park crew for their excellent episode on this exact topic. Because like if you guys haven't seen it, you need to watch Into the Panderverse, because it's amazing.
I haven't seen it yet. Everyone says it's good.
Oh my god! So like the long and short of it is, it turns out Disney has this thing called the Pander Stone, which is not the Infinity Stone, basically, but like it makes it so you can turn any work into a pander fest where it goes to as big an audience as possible. But then they realize if you overuse it, if you go too far trying to appeal to everybody, you appeal to nobody, and it becomes recursive. And it's so good. So good. You end up appealing to nobody when you do that.
Well, what I was going to say is that I do know that, Warcraft was based off of a lot of other stuff. I think Warhammer Fantasy was a prominent stake in the early Warcraft and everything like that. But the early stuff from World of Warcraft did have its own kind of style, and I would say it probably borrowed a good amount of stuff probably from Ultima, probably, and EverQuest and everything. But they kind of made their own thing out of it. Nowadays, it's everybody is trying to make an MMO based off of World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Didn't work out very well. But Warcraft is kind of lost. Like it's so old, and just the way what the story is trying to tell now is like it doesn't work as well anymore. Or that's also a reason why everybody why when they decide to release what they call World of Warcraft Classic, which is a server that's based off the first game, the vanilla game, the game before all the expansions, and everyone's like, wait, why are there so many people playing this game? Because people never really wanted it to be much different than what it was before.
It's nostalgia, and I'm going to be that guy right now. Nostalgia hype is extremely overrated. I'm going to be that guy right now, I guess. I think we're far enough into the video where people who strongly disagree with this would have clicked off anyway. Mega Man 9 and 10 exist, and they're not very good, because they were like, guys, what if we made a brand new game, but basically put as much effort into it as our NES titles? And they were like, oh, brilliant. The nostalgia all the way. There are proper ways to utilize nostalgia, and then there's that Panderstone effect. you go too far with it. That's why no one remembers Mega Man 9 or 10. That's why everyone's like, dude, Mega Man 11. Mega Man 11 is so good. And guess what? It is. Mega Man 11 is fantastic. And like that's the problem, is there's so much, and like the indie scene is really, really guilty of this, and it kills me. But like, guys, we do not need another quirky, zany, or JRPG styled game based off of Mother. We all played Mother, and if any of us have any objectivity in us whatsoever, we'll kind of acknowledge that it's 1 out of 3 in terms of good games. Mother 2 was good. Not amazing. It was good. Great, I dare say. Mother 1 and Mother 3 suck. Bust out your snake effigies and torch them or hang them or run them through with a pitchfork, but search your feelings, you know it to be true.
How can you hang a snake?
We're like,
really
well, Karis, we're like 90% neck.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Karis realized he messed up.
Well,
I have made a mistake.
Nostalgia for me works in a couple different ways. It kind of depends on also what they're using it as.
Oh, yeah,
definitely. I don't think the World of Warcraft Classic, because the way they did it was they pretty much said, okay, we're going to leave the game exactly the way it was, except we'll probably fix a couple of like game-breaking bugs and stuff like that, just so that way like the game works a bit better than it did before. But we're going to relatively leave it the same as it all was. So I'm like, that's fine, because if that's what people want to play, that's what people want to play. I hate to bring it up, but people love Melee, so people still play Melee. One way or another, they will find a way to play it.
And I'm so sorry for those people whose parents locked them under the stairs and only gave them one game to play their entire childhood. It's truly a tragedy when this kind of abuse happens.
But the sorry, I was gonna say the. It just really depends on it really just kind of depends on how they implement it. Like I think the Crash Bandicoot and the Spyro trilogy, like when they release those, I'm like, oh, those are really cool, because they're pretty much still the same game except with the new shine. And
No, they're not. No, they're not.
They are very heavily overhauled, actually.
That bridge level from number 1 is still pretty tough. I'm not gonna lie.
The physics engine is very different, at least in Crash. I can't say anything about Spyro, but yeah. And I was just going to say, going back to this next thing about locking them under the stairs. How else are they going to become intergalactic fighter races if they can't just play one game over and over and over and over again?
I know, right?
That's how you become the Starfighter.
That's true.
Starfighter.
That's true.
You're a Starfighter. You're a Starfighter, Larry.
You're a Starfighter, Larry. I kind of went from Hagrid to Senator Armstrong there.
Mm-hmm. And
You're a Starfighter, Larry.
And can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs.
I, for one, would vote for Starfighter Senator Armstrong.
That game was so ahead of its time; it had no idea. What were you saying, Clockwork?
My other gripe that I have down here is just early access is real games. Games that come out heavily unoptimized, or that are pretty much using paying players as QA teams to fix it later. Now, I know that I play a game, and I'm playing it right. I'll be playing it right now since then. Cyberpunk, that was pretty much the biggest, buggiest mess ever. And they pretty much had to use the people to figure out what exactly was the biggest issues and fix it so that way it was playable again, so they could get put back onto the Sony PlayStation storefront.
Yep.
But there's also I heard there's a game called, I think it was Cities Skylines 2 that recently came out. Apparently, even people with NASA Space Center console setups can't run this game because they decided they're going to make it so everybody, every little NPC that walks around in your city, apparently has a high poly face model or something like that. So your game is pretty much trying to create an actual civilization in the game, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work very well.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say, it's funny that you're bringing up early access when, literally you're like, guys, I can't stop playing Cyberpunk. I'm like, wow, I did not realize that, bad taste was terminal. But okay. But yeah, this literally is less a case of early access and more a case of just the fact that
they didn't finish the game.
It's not even that. It's the fact that they don't even basically we're so flush with resources in terms of computing power now, or just a standard system, that they never are like, maybe we don't need to have a fully photorealistic model for, our tiny little citizens and, city build man, yes, equals very good. Maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe we could just have little low poly facsimiles, because we're never actually going to, have people zoom in to the point where they're going to be able to see people.
Mm. I think the other issue. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just, if they do, it's like, you're going to be like, well, I don't know how to tell you this there, Jimmy, but this is a city builder game. It is not a talk down to your citizens game. This is not The Sims. This is City Build Man.
This is not black and white?
Yeah, no. I've noticed that too. Like, a good example of using your resources effectively is our boy Earth Defense Force. Because if you're far away from the target, they're only animated at 12 frames per second. But you're so far away from your target that you probably have enemies that are much closer to you that are animated at much more smooth frame rates as you get closer to them. So they can spawn more dudes in, but they have the low poly, smooth texture, low FPS models who are far away. And then when the enemy approaches you, the game's like, oh, okay, now I'll load in this higher res model into the RAM and let it animate faster, because now you've already killed all the enemies who are close to you. So now these far away guys are now viable targets. And it's
as a skydiver, yeah, it is really funny to actually watch the guys who come in, and they're just kind of doing this very janky stool walk of and then they come within 200 meters of you, and at which point they're like, oh yeah, I have knees.
I can start using my knees now.
So the point I wanted, the kind of thing I want to preface though is that I'm not bagging on early access in general. If a company like a small indie company needs extra funds and they ask hey, would you mind buying this game? And so that way you can fund us more so we can complete it. I mean, it's more like Kickstarter in that way, but except you're actually getting the game to play, even if it is an unfinished mess. The main thing is that I think what No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk have done is shown that, because Cyberpunk is working and actually mostly complete, there's still features that they're not going to add into it, which sucks. But they show that the game can be a buggy, unoptimized giant mess and then come back from the dead and be really good. I was told No Man's Sky right now is actually a really good game if you like space sims.
And
Cyberpunk 2077, in my opinion, is kind of really, really good right now as well, especially with the new DLC. But I mean, if you throw it up in front of me and say, hey, this is an early access game, but it has a cool idea, do you want to play it and support it? So I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Or no, I don't think this game is for me, I'm not going to support it, or what have you. But if you release a game hey, here's our new game, and you played this doesn't work, or he's like, oh yeah, we're still making it, why didn't you guys, oh Jesus. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. No,
stop using us as your QA team when they spend money. That's what QA teams are for.
Yeah, and if you're gonna do early access, I've seen some games on Steam do early access really, really well. But first off, you should be charging way less than a full release, and second, be honest with your timetable, because if they don't even give an estimate, then yeah, the only game that I trust to be in beta and admit it's a beta, but admit that it doesn't have a full release schedule is Dwarf Fortress. Yes, officially Dwarf Fortress has been in beta for years and will probably remain in it until Tarn Adams has added 100 features. I think he was joking when he said it, but he's like, yeah, it'll be a full release when there's 100 unique features of the game that the game can boast. We're still not sure if he was joking about that or not. Because, it's Tarn Adams, you never know.
Yeah. Okay, well, I have a few if we're at that point where no one cares what we're saying anymore.
We're at the 45-minute mark. Go crazy.
Okay, so this is kind of a 1-2 for Wham Bam. First off, I don't care about your politics. I don't care. You don't care. Honestly, if it's a game that you have an ideology and it's good for the game, great. But if you're suddenly I'm playing like shoot kill guy, and then they're like, oh man, I sure do want to talk about real life issue, and it's like, but I'm just here shooting bad guy with my gun. And they're like, no, you need to stop now. We're talking about real life issue. Then it is not good. It's jarring. It doesn't fit anything. And it is just basically a soapbox for the developer to just basically have a captive audience, and they can soliloquize about things. It's not good.
I'm assuming you mean more like be more upfront with your politics and what the game's going to be than just hiding it and then having it jump out of the soapbox.
No, well, yes, and also if you are going to apply it, like for instance, I'm going to say this: BioShock is a good example. Not only is the game classy as heck because of its Art Deco art design, but also, I mean, I'm going to say this: Andrew Ryan is not a good representation of objectivism.
No,
he is not. It's not. But I will say it this way: the entire conceit of the game is built around Andrew Ryan's effective fall from grace. And so I can forgive them the fact that they're basically trying to straw man objectivism in the way that they do. So, I will say, I disagree, but at the same time, I think it's a good game. I think that, the story has merit for this reason.
Yeah, definitely. It's not that they can't make a point. It's that, well, I imagine you're going there with your next example.
Okay. Bad example. The Last of Us 2. Fungus Boogaloo. The entire situation where they straight up kill the main character of the first game. And this causes the entire thing to go on to this really contrived revenge plot where, you have this little waifish little girl going to fight this like hulking space marine looking beautiful queen, and then going, no, I won't kill you even though you killed my dad babysitter because that will make me just as bad as you. And it's like, okay, that entire thing. Yeah, first off, this beautiful queen is very clearly she is very clearly a beautiful queen, clearly. But also, I mean, they have made no qualms about killing any other person up to this point.
Just
what makes
that
the beautiful
one.
Queen? Yeah,
the roid monster, the roid raging muscle monster is where we're supposed to draw a line. Like, why?
Beautiful queen, snack. But anyways, so yes.
I mean, this is such a thing with modern games, and almost all of it's Western devs. They gotta cram in.
That's my second thing.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Second thing, my 1-2 punch. Recall.
I've activated his trap card.
Yes, you've activated my trap card. Okay, this is more going to Western developers and also to Sony, because for some reason Sony desperately wants to be a Western developer. Okay, Western developers, Sony, why do you know attractive characters? I mean, I know that I talked about, that one character from The Last of Us 2 and said she's a beautiful queen, but aesthetically, she leaves much to be desired.
Roid rage monster, dude.
Like kind of a problem with a lot of characters now. Like for instance, why does Mary Jane and Spooderman 2 look like Gwen Quagmire due to their like giant, chiseled chin? Why
Basically,
is it,
I've seen an answer to this. I've actually seen the answer to this. It's all self-insert fan fiction, dude. The reason April O'Neil looks like a homeless person in that crappy Seth Rogen like not Turtles movie is because that's the lead actress. They literally just insert themselves. They're not trying to make interesting characters. They're trying to insert themselves. And meanwhile, a particular, bespectacled villain in glasses once commented, well, we're in a video game, so of course everyone's going to be at least reasonably attractive, because that's what draws, again, guys, it's the pander stone. You want the biggest audience possible without going recursive. So you want your characters to be at least conventionally attractive. So you get the biggest audience pull. But Western devs are now like, I remember everyone made such a big fuss over the was it Horizon Dawn or whatever it was called? I didn't play them, but I saw an interview after the first game came out, and they were like, oh, well, we had to like change the model of the lead actress in the game because like the lady we based her on looked like she was ready to cry at any minute. And I'm like, really? You guys were allowed to say that and not get like absolutely massacred just on social media? But I guess like the first game didn't apparently have that big of a reach, so apparently nothing came of it. And then they did it again in the second game and made her even uglier. And they're like, oh well, she's going through like a war-torn environment. And I'm like, yeah, guess what? No one cares because you took a very attractive actress and just uglified her to uglify her, because that's the trend this week, I guess.
Yeah, honestly, I think I want to say the only people who played Horizon Zero Dawn the first were like literally Kotaku, Polygon, and the Lone Ranger, because they are the only people I have seen that like have talked about it.
Yeah. The Ranger, you are my bro, but sometimes your gaming tastes worry me.
You need to get a better computer so we can play Warframe again, my dude.
Yeah, seriously. We also need to do something about Australian internet, which is the real devil of the situation.
I mean, that is also pretty far away. So I mean,
yeah, but like we literally
hold on. Snack, are you saying you're going to run for Prime Minister of Australia?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm going to run for Prime Minister of Australia while I'm also being the President CEO of Activision Blizzard. It's always been my dream to be the head of state of a foreign country to which I have no ties or allegiance, and also to own a megacorp, which I also owe no ties or allegiance, so that way I can truly become the villain of my own cyberpunk dystopia. And I think Australia would be a great testing ground because, honestly, they're just so easygoing down there. I don't think anyone would notice. That's a joke, guys. That's a joke, guys.
Fergus going to be real.
I'm joking. I love you, Australians. You kangaroos are all great.
I'm joking, unless you guys would be actually okay with it. At this point, I will.
At this point, I will totally do it. If you guys vote me in, I'll do it. Okay, I promise I won't do half as bad a job as your last few attempts. I'll have to ask Lord Ranger. It's like, okay, let's say hypothetically, you saw the hipster snack show up on a ballot. Would you vote for me? That's going to be my litmus test, guys.
I don't know. I am a wanker.
I don't have arms. I don't think you can call a snack that. We're far enough into the video to say stuff like that. It's fine. No, it's fine. I'll let Noodle get away with worse.
Yeah, his Flareon coffee pasta.
Oh no.
That was amazing. No regrets.
Yeah, you weren't there for that, were you?
I was not.
No, Clockwork was not. That was Yumi and Noodle, I believe. Because
yeah, and the worst part was he busted it out like right when we started, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave now.
Okay, bye. Yudaku said as he ran for the door. Yeah.
Yep.
See, now there's a lot wrong with gaming, guys. It's super easy to get bogged down in these negatives. I get it. I've been there. Like when a lot of my don't make games like were really, really popular videos. But the reason I stopped doing them is because I don't want to add to that just morass of negativity because there's already too much. Guys, seriously, do yourselves a favor and find the gold that is there. If you don't like a particular game, cool. Don't play it. Don't buy it. Don't support it. But if you do like a game, support it with all your heart. Okay? Like, there are so many good games. We live in the era of unprecedented choice. We have all these awesome games. We have all this cool stuff. We have hardware that lets us do stuff we never could before. Like the archivists are working hard, so we have all the old games too, on top of all the new stuff coming out. And indie games now have all these new tools they didn't have a few years ago that they can make these really cool games with. So, like, guys, there's a lot to fix, and those things should be fixed. But don't forget, there's a lot of cool stuff out there. Okay, like there's a lot of cool stuff. There's always hope. I was not expecting Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher, but then Tecmo was like, "Hey, do you like Ultraman and Monster Rancher and want to see them put into a blender and hit puree?" And I was like, "Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Thank you." Like, unexpected and good things can happen.
Specific question.
Snack thought to himself.
Yeah, but it is something that I want, so.
As a matter of fact, yes. Now that you've asked, that is something I like. And, like, there is so much good out there, guys. Don't fixate on the negative, okay? Address the negative. Don't ignore it, because, like, ignoring it's not going to help. Address it, but don't fixate, all right? Fix it, don't fixate. How's that for a catchphrase? There you go. That's pretty good. I like that. I just came up with that. And like, if you like games, and you should, and it would be really weird if you were listening to this podcast for almost an hour now and you're not even a gamer. Like, what are you doing? Please tell me. I'm genuinely curious. But like,
I was going to say that's your campaign slogan now: fix, not fixate.
Fix it, not fixate. Yes. No, and it's like, there's so much good. There are so many good games. There's so many good crowds to run with. Like, one of the things that I've been genuinely pleased with, like, we all play Final Fantasy 14. And like 80-90% of the people we play with are super cool. And we've ended up making friends. Snekina Snekovich's voice actress, we met via Final Fantasy 14 and we became buddies. So like, really, really positive community. Like, okay, you know what? I'll get props where they're due. I'll go one step further. When I played World of Warcraft, when I did the trial version, and the people in the beginner chat, super helpful. Like, I didn't understand one of the mechanics because I played a hunter, and they introduced, like, oh, you can capture monsters and turn them into your pets. And I'm like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing. How do I do this? And guys in the chat were like, oh, well, you do this. And they explained it to me in a way that made sense, and they weren't rude or nasty or condescending about it. They were actually super cool. And that was awesome. And that kind of thing is the sort of thing that will make people want to play your game more. And you know what game exemplifies this? Deep Rock Galactic. I have comments on one of my Trials of Mana videos because I made a joke about pointy-eared leaf lovers. I have at least like 3 Rock and Stone comments in the comment section from people who saw that one dumb joke and jumped on the opportunity.
I think Rock and Stone is probably one of the most weirdly, I don't know how to phrase this properly so you can help me fix it. It's like it's like an underground, like you say it and then like a bunch of people will just come out of the woodwork and go Rock and Stone.
Yeah, it's like it's simple, but it's evocative because it works because not only is it punchy, Rock and Stone, 3 words, bam. Rock having multiple meanings, Stone literally only having the one meaning in this context. So people are like, yeah, Rock and Stone, and it's a sign of solidarity. It's a game that every single element of the game was built around helping your teammates. Because if you don't Rock and Stone, you ain't coming home. That's it. and that's, yeah, this this game could be a case study for game theory going forward, showing how to build positive communities within a gaming environment. That could be another great podcast episode. I'm not going to get too into the weeds. Warframe, yes. When everything is PvE, it doesn't matter if your frame is jank, because they're all jank, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, but see, the funny thing is like pretty much all the frames are also busted too, so it's
every frame is busted and jank at the same time. It's beautiful, actually. I mean, I guess there's like technically PvP in like the one room you can build in your like clubhouse, but like that's not where the focus is. 99% of the game is PvE. So like everyone just gets to go nuts with their crazy frame powers and feel really cool doing it.
Also, the game is not balanced for that. I've tried doing that with a couple of friends, and we just pretty much one-shot each other.
Yeah, because you can basically kit a weapon to do... yeah, because like you can basically kit your weapon to do just a billion damage.
The real PvP is the obstacle course. You can complete the obstacle course the fastest.
That's true.
I'd find the jankiest, weirdest shortcuts that the game will not actually kick you out of. That'll let you go through the finish line easier.
Yeah, and see that's the beauty of it. That is such a good thing. I think it's a really good note to end out the episode. What do you guys have any comments?
I was going to point out that as Snick has pointed out a bunch of times, the indie scene has also where a good amount of the gems are coming out of. As I've talked about, and if you like narrative games, I've told both the bros here about it. Disco Elysium is probably, as a lot of people put it, one of the best narrative games out there right now. Point and click, like story wise.
Was going to record that for the channel, but there is so much profanity. I can't cut it all out and not get demonetized.
So it's one of those games I would probably recommend you don't, just because it's and not because of that. It's a lot better to play it without the context of content, and if that makes sense. Without the I think a YouTuber put it the debuff, the content debuff, as it were.
No, that checks out actually.
Another great narrative game I've played recently that I've had a lot of was called Citizen Sleeper, which is pretty much the story about you as an android running away from the corporation on a derelict space station that you land on, and you have to survive. You have to survive and try to run away from them. That's pretty much as much I'm going to give you. Very fun. I've enjoyed. I have it. Bomber Cyberpunk. A game that, and a lot of people will tell me that's not a lot of game in that game. I'm like, yes, but if you are one of those people who like, well, I'll say art in the quotation mark, if you like music, if you like the art style, if you like the graffiti art the game provide, there's a lot more to like it than just the gameplay, which there is only a bit of gameplay in a sense, because you don't really do much more than ride around and just kind of vibe, as one would say. But if that is what you like, then that is what you like. Just like how not everyone might not like Citizen Sleeper or Disco Elysium, because there might not be that much into narrative games. There's just a lot of games out there right now. I'm missing one. I had it in my head, and I can't think of it. Unfortunately, it'll probably come back to me later. I might back in 2025 or 26, whenever this post, I'll probably put in the comments what I was thinking of.
No, that's fair.
Or I mean, I could just play Planescape Torment again, which I probably should do. It's a really good game. Have you ever played that one there, Professor?
Admittedly, I have not.
Oh, it is good. It is good. It's like old school Baldur's Gate, but it's a lot more narrative and a lot less. You wander into a pack of dire wolves and just die because the game is brutally hard.
That's fair. I'll look into that.
Oh, it's on Steam. I checked the other day because I'm like, I really like to play Planescape Torment again. And I really am not big into the good old games thing, which I probably should be, but yeah.
It has its purposes. Yeah. Now, I think that brings us to a good stopping point. So thank you for listening. If you are still listening, you king among men or queen among women, I guess, or whatever, thank you. If you liked what you heard today, like it, subscribe for more, because more like this comes out all the time. Always updating, always good stuff here on Channel Snack, and the Tomo Bros frequently cameo and assist me with many of the things that I do here. So thank you, Clockwork Fiction and Itaku, for joining me again today.
No problem.
Have a great one, everybody.
Real MVP is the listener. You gem amongst gamers. See what I did there?
Very smooth. So, this has been the Hipster Snack, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Tomodachi Bros podcast. Leave a comment down below. Did we hit on some of the things that burn your cheese? If we missed something, let us know. Like, what is it that irritates you? We'd love to hear it. So, this is the Hipster Snack, and we're signing off for now.
Thank you for listening to the Tomodachi Brothers Review Podcast, produced and recorded by the Hipster Snack, Ritaku, and Cog. Sound design and editing by executive producer Sean Taylor Brown with Cog Sound Engineering. Music written and performed by Sean Taylor Brown with Costas Voss of Core Insight Studio on the drums. We hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time.